that's how you pronounce it. I'm from Belgium, and I'm active in organizational change management. As such, my aim and my goal is to change the conversation on what is change management. Some of my concepts are social architecture, and I'm very into social media. I think that is the next big wave for change management. Well, my favorite disruptive hero is not the one you would call disruptive, and I was disturbed a little bit by my own answer when I looked at it. It's actually my athletics coach, and that was 15 years ago and 30 pounds ago. And why he's so disruptive and so meaningful in my life? Because he had two mantras, and the first mantra was the only thing you need to do is to continue breathing. And the second thing you have to do is to continue smiling. And at first, as a 20-year-old or an 18-year-old, that is something, well, you just take it for granted, and you don't have a lot of attention for it. But now as I grow older, I know that those two meaningful things, keep on breathing and keep on smiling, are so important and are way more disruptive than being aggressive or making any other statement. When your whole world is collapsing around you, when you're in such an anxious mood or what have you, realizing that and coming back to your senses, because that's actually what physically it does, coming back to your senses is so meaningful. And it has helped me in a lot of occasions. Also growing up, just remember to breathe. That's the first thing. Start there, and anything that you can improve from there on is bonus. I'd say the second because it is mainly with the background of, well, let's not take ourselves too serious too much of the time. My favorite disruptive change would be, and it sounds cliche again, social media. And not because of the technology of social media, but because of the societal effect that it has on us. There's a tremendous impact, and there's more and more research that shows that social media is like new wave of literacy. Um, and like when we were cavemen, we learned the literacy of making the drawings and having the interpretation of drawings, and then slowly but surely text came, moving image, and then in the 80s came MTV, and then we had the first versions of websites. That was the literacy of navigation, and now we have another literacy that comes on top of that, and that's the literacy of collaboration. So for me, the disruptive aspect of that change is not technology at all, but the way it changes society, and it even changes our brains. The cognitive structure of our brains is changing. Our attention span is so short. We have a craving for interruption that is really disruptive. Has been highlighted from a negative aspects enough, but there are tremendous possibilities when I look at my kids growing up. The way that they will be growing up will be collaborating, working together, learning, and what their future looks like. We don't even know. It's that disruptive that we cannot even realize what their world will look like. All of a sudden, it has become so evident that on top of my projects, my context, on top of the technical architecture that is laid out and rolled out in, let's say, an ERP project, we need a social architecture to make that stuff work. And once you realize that new literacy calls for an aspect of influence on top of the authority, in collaboration with authority, that social architecture just to make things work, a network of people, of clans, of clubs, of collaborators, of tribes, that you need that in order. That's how the world works. It has become so evident, so logic, that I am flabbergasted by the fact that we don't have a language for it even. And social architecture, everybody looks at you and they say, well, is that a new buzzword? No, we've been doing it all the time. Being a father of three youngsters, the disruptive change that I'm struggling with is global warming, and all the effect that it has on our planet. Now that may sound very generalistic, but I am really struggling with the very practical aspects of it. Like currently we have two cars. Do we need two cars? Yes, we trick ourselves into believing that we need two cars. Challenging ourselves on the belief that we need two cars, to just take that example, is very challenging for us because it has immediately immense practical impacts on our lives, on the way we organize our lives. And I'm very glad that in the education system, at least here in Belgium and in Europe, that our kids are raised with a tremendous awareness, and that government and educators over here are pushing their messages into the classrooms, and from the classrooms they try to bring about the behavior change to the children in the families. I find it very positive, by the way, because they make me constantly think and be aware about our behavior. For example, if you open the tap and you leave the water running and then go for a glass and come back, instead of taking the glass, then opening the tap, just making ourselves aware of that behavior. That's tremendous, that's immense, and very disruptive for us to ask ourselves all these questions. Do we need that? Do we need that as a family, as a community, as a society?